Every 17 minutes, a supertanker carrying 2 million barrels of crude oil passes through a waterway so narrow that ships can see both shores. This choke point is only 21 miles wide at its tightest stretch. And for 70 years, the most powerful nation on Earth has waged a shadow war to control it. What if I told you that a single decision made in a smoke-filled room in 1953 set in motion a chain of events that could still trigger the collapse of the global economy tomorrow? That American intelligence agents once handed briefcases full of cash to Iranian generals while pretending to be British tourists. That a computer virus more sophisticated than anything the world had ever seen was quietly eating its way through Iranian nuclear facilities while diplomats smiled and shook hands in Geneva. This is the story of Operation Ajax, Stuxnet, and the 70-year shadow war for the Strait of Hormuz. This is the story they never wanted you to understand. It begins not in Tehran, but in London. The year is 1951, and the British Empire is dying. Its crown jewel in the Middle East is the Anglo-Iranian Oil Company, a corporation so powerful it essentially runs southern Iran as a private colony. Iranian oil heats British homes, fuels British ships, and fills British treasury accounts. But the Iranian people see almost nothing from their own natural resources. A soft-spoken aristocrat named Mohammad Mossadegh rises to become prime minister on a radical promise. He will nationalize Iranian oil. He will take back what belongs to Iran. The British are furious. They impose a crushing embargo. They freeze Iranian assets. They send warships to the Persian Gulf, but Mossadegh doesn't bend. So London turns to Washington with a proposition that will reshape the Middle East forever. Here's what most Americans never learned in school. The Central Intelligence Agency was barely 6 years old in 1953. It had never overthrown a foreign government. Iran would be the first experiment. The plan was called Operation Ajax. On paper, it was elegant. In practice, it was chaos dressed in a suit. CIA officer Kermit Roosevelt, grandson of President Theodore Roosevelt, entered Iran with a false passport and a suitcase containing $1 million in cash. His mission was simple in concept, terrifying in execution. He would manufacture a revolution. Roosevelt set up operations in the basement of the American embassy. He began paying newspaper editors to print fake stories claiming Mossadegh was a communist. He bribed military officers. He hired street thugs to pose as communist protesters and commit violence in Mossadegh's name, turning public opinion against the prime minister. Think about that for a moment. American agents were paying Iranians to attack other Iranians while pretending to be communists, all to make a democratically elected leader look dangerous. The first coup attempt failed spectacularly. The Shah fled the country in his personal plane, and Roosevelt received orders to abort the mission. He ignored them. Instead, he doubled down, pouring more money into the streets of Tehran. On August 19, 1953, the second attempt succeeded. Mobs stormed government buildings. Tanks rolled through the capital. Mossadegh surrendered in his pajamas and was placed under house arrest for the rest of his life. The Shah returned in triumph. American oil companies received 40% of Iran's petroleum concession. The CIA celebrated its first successful regime change. But here's what nobody in Washington understood at the time. They hadn't ended anything. They had planted a seed of rage that would grow for 26 years and then explode. The Shah ruled Iran with American backing for the next quarter century. His secret police, trained by the CIA, were called Savak. They became synonymous with torture, disappearance, and fear. Dissidents were dragged from their homes at night and never seen again. Political prisoners had their fingernails pulled out, their bodies burned with cigarettes, their minds broken by months of isolation. America sent billions in weapons. America sent military advisors. America sent the message, loud and clear, that this was their man in the Middle East. By 1978, Iran was a pressure cooker with the lid welded shut. The Shah had modernized the economy, but the wealth flowed to a tiny elite, while inflation crushed the middle class. Religious conservatives despised his Western lifestyle. Students and intellectuals remembered Mossadegh and knew exactly who had stolen their democracy. When the explosion came, American intelligence was caught completely off guard. In January 1979, the Shah fled Iran for the final time. Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini, an elderly cleric who had spent 15 years in exile, returned to Tehran and was greeted by the largest crowd in human history. Some estimates say 6 million people filled the streets. The Islamic Revolution had arrived, and its first enemy was clear. 9 months later, Iranian students stormed the American embassy in Tehran. They took 52 Americans hostage and held them for 444 days. Night after night, Americans watched footage of blindfolded diplomats being paraded before crowds chanting, "Death to America." The trauma of that hostage crisis has never fully healed. It ended careers, destroyed a presidency, and poisoned relations between two nations for generations. But it also obscured something far more dangerous developing in the background. Even as the hostages sat in captivity, even as American television networks broadcast their ordeal into every living room, Iran's new revolutionary government was quietly making a decision that would eventually threaten the entire world. They would build a nuclear program. Now here's where the story takes a turn that seems almost too convenient to be true. Iraq's dictator, Saddam Hussein, saw Iran's post-revolutionary chaos as an opportunity. In September 1980, Iraqi forces invaded Iran, beginning an 8-year war that would kill over 1 million people. What did the United States do? The Reagan administration secretly supported both sides. When Iraq was losing, America provided Saddam with satellite intelligence on Iranian troop positions. When Iran was winning, America made covert deals to sell weapons to Tehran and used the profits to fund rebels in Nicaragua, creating the scandal known as Iran-Contra. The cynicism was breathtaking. American policymakers watched two nations bleed each other white and saw only strategic advantage. But they missed something crucial developing in the chaos. During the war with Iraq, Saddam Hussein used chemical weapons against Iranian soldiers. Mustard gas, nerve agents, weapons of mass destruction deployed against human beings. And Iran's leaders learned a lesson they would never forget. Conventional weapons could not protect them. Only the ultimate deterrent would guarantee their survival. Only nuclear weapons would make them untouchable. The Iranian nuclear program had technically existed since the 1950s, when the United States itself helped Tehran build its first research reactor under the Atoms for Peace program. The irony is almost unbearable. American engineers trained Iranian scientists. American companies built Iranian facilities. The program America now considers an existential threat was born with American fingerprints all over it. After the revolution, Iran continued nuclear research quietly, but the program accelerated dramatically in the 1990s. Centrifuges began spinning in underground facilities. Uranium enrichment started in secret. In 2002, an Iranian dissident group revealed the existence of two hidden nuclear sites that Iran had never declared to international inspectors. The facilities at Natanz and Arak became household names in intelligence circles. The world suddenly realized Iran was much further along than anyone had assumed. But why should Americans care about Iranian centrifuges spinning in facilities thousands of miles away? Because of geography. Because of a waterway so strategically vital that its closure would crash the global economy within weeks. The Strait of Hormuz connects the Persian Gulf to the Gulf of Oman and the open ocean beyond. It is a narrow throat of water, bordered by Iran on one side and Oman and the United Arab Emirates on the other. Every single day, approximately 21 million barrels of oil pass through this strait. That represents about 20% of the world's total petroleum consumption. Japan gets 80% of its oil through Hormuz. South Korea gets roughly 70%. China's economy depends on those tankers arriving safely. If Iran closed the strait, oil prices would double within days. Gas stations in America would run dry within weeks. The stock market would crater. Supply chains would collapse. The global economy would enter a death spiral. Iran knows this. Iran has always known this. So when American aircraft carriers patrol the Persian Gulf, they're not just projecting power. They're protecting the jugular vein of the world economy. And Iran has spent decades preparing to cut that vein if pushed too far. Iranian Revolutionary Guard speedboats swarm through the strait regularly, practicing the tactics they would use in a real confrontation. They have thousands of anti-ship missiles hidden in caves along the coastline. They have developed mines specifically designed to sink supertankers. They have underwater drones and small submarines that could wreak havoc on commercial shipping. In 2012, a war game conducted by American military planners simulated a conflict with Iran in the Persian Gulf. The results were so catastrophic they were classified. According to reports that later emerged, the American fleet suffered massive casualties in the simulation. Ships were sunk, aircraft were shot down. The war game had to be reset and the rules changed to produce a more acceptable outcome. That's how dangerous this situation really is. The American military couldn't even beat Iran in a computer simulation without changing the rules. But Washington wasn't just relying on military power. A different strategy was evolving in the shadows, one that would become the most sophisticated covert operation in history. In 2006, the Bush administration authorized a program with a code name that sounded almost boring: Olympic Games. It would become the opening shot in the world's first true cyber war. The target was the Natanz uranium enrichment facility, a vast underground complex where thousands of centrifuges spun constantly, separating the fissile isotope needed for nuclear weapons from natural uranium. These centrifuges are extraordinarily delicate machines, precision devices that rotate at supersonic speeds. The slightest imbalance can destroy them. American and Israeli intelligence agencies developed a weapon unlike anything that had existed before. It was a computer worm, a piece of code that could spread autonomously, hide within systems, and cause physical destruction in the real world. They called it Stuxnet. The elegance of Stuxnet was its subtlety. It didn't simply destroy the centrifuges. It made them destroy themselves, while telling the operators everything was fine. The worm infiltrated the Natanz control systems through infected USB drives brought in by unwitting workers or perhaps knowing saboteurs. Once inside, it recorded normal operating data for weeks. Then it began its attack. Stuxnet would command the centrifuges to spin faster than their design limits while playing back recordings of normal operations to the monitoring systems. Iranian technicians stared at their screens, showing perfect function, while the machines they were watching tore themselves apart. Centrifuge after centrifuge failed. Iranian engineers were baffled. They replaced components. They fired workers. They suspected everything except the one thing actually happening. Their computers were lying to them. By some estimates, Stuxnet destroyed roughly 1,000 Iranian centrifuges and set the program back by several years. It was an unprecedented success. It was also an unprecedented escalation. The United States had demonstrated that it could reach into the most secure facility of a sovereign nation and cause physical destruction through cyberspace alone. The implications were terrifying. If America could do this to Iran, what could others eventually do to America? Iran responded by building one of the most aggressive cyber warfare programs on the planet. Within years, Iranian hackers were attacking American banks, Saudi oil companies, and critical infrastructure worldwide. The genie could not be put back in the bottle, but Stuxnet only bought time. It didn't solve the underlying problem. In 2015, the Obama administration completed years of secret negotiations with a deal that would define his foreign policy legacy. The Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, known as the Iran Nuclear Deal, promised to freeze Iranian nuclear development in exchange for sanctions relief. For 3 years, the deal held. Iranian centrifuges stopped spinning. Stockpiles of enriched uranium shrank. International inspectors gained unprecedented access to nuclear facilities. Then, in May 2018, President Donald Trump withdrew the United States from the agreement. He called it the worst deal ever negotiated and reimposed crushing sanctions on Iran. The consequences were immediate and severe. Iran's currency collapsed, its economy contracted, inflation skyrocketed. Ordinary Iranians, already struggling, faced devastating hardship. Medications became scarce, food prices soared. A middle-class family's life savings became worthless almost overnight, and Iran began advancing its nuclear program faster than ever before. By 2020, Iran had stockpiled more enriched uranium than at any point in its history. By 2021, it was enriching to 60% purity, far beyond any civilian need, and terrifyingly close to weapons-grade material. By 2022, American intelligence agencies were warning that Iran could potentially produce enough fissile material for a nuclear weapon within a matter of weeks. The strategy of maximum pressure had achieved maximum acceleration. Now, consider where we stand today. Iran possesses enough enriched uranium for multiple nuclear weapons if it chose to take the final steps. Its ballistic missiles can reach any American base in the Middle East and potentially targets in Europe. Its proxy forces control territory in Lebanon, Syria, Iraq, and Yemen, surrounding American allies and partners. The Strait of Hormuz remains the world's most dangerous flashpoint. Iranian speedboats and American warships eye each other across narrow waters where a single miscalculation could trigger catastrophe. And here is the part that should keep everyone awake at night. Neither side has a plan for what comes next. American policymakers speak of preventing Iran from obtaining nuclear weapons, but they haven't explained how. Military strikes might delay the program, but would almost certainly trigger a regional war with casualties in the hundreds of thousands. Sanctions have failed to change Iranian behavior and may have actually accelerated the nuclear timeline. Diplomacy collapsed with the withdrawal from the 2015 deal, and neither side trusts the other enough to try again. Iran's leaders face their own impossible choices. Their economy is shattered by sanctions. Their population is restless and increasingly desperate. Their nuclear program offers leverage, but also invites destruction. Every path forward contains catastrophic risks. This is the shadow war that began in a basement in Tehran in 1953. It has outlasted 13 American presidents and 2 Iranian revolutions. It has consumed thousands of lives and trillions of dollars. It has pushed the world repeatedly to the brink of conflicts that could devastate the global economy or ignite a nuclear exchange. And it continues tonight in classified briefings and secret meetings and monitoring stations and submarines patrolling dark waters. The United States and Iran have been locked in this confrontation for so long that it has become almost invisible. A background hum of tension that Americans have learned to ignore. But the stakes have never been higher. The weapons have never been more dangerous. The margin for error has never been thinner. 70 years of covert operations, 70 years of sanctions and sabotage and shadow war, and the fundamental question remains unresolved. What happens when a nation that controls the world's economic chokepoint decides it has nothing left to lose? What happens when the next Stuxnet fails, or the next assassination triggers retaliation, or the next confrontation in the Strait goes wrong? We may find out sooner than anyone wants to believe. The shadow war for the Strait of Hormuz is the conflict that could collapse everything. And most people have never heard the full story until now. If you think this is terrifying, wait until you understand what happens when a single factory producing one critical component suddenly goes dark. Because in our interconnected world, the real vulnerabilities aren't where anyone expects. The video appearing on your screen reveals a threat that makes everything you just heard look manageable by comparison.